So what do we want to talk about today? So our agenda is going to look at PPM at a high level and the value that it offers to organizations. We also are going to look at what a high-level PPM process might look like. And since we are primarily focused on tools today, we're going to illustrate how you might be able to enable that process by using some tools from the Microsoft technology suite. So why are we here? We're here to talk about PPM process at a high level, a helicopter view of the process, and to illustrate some of the tools that from the Microsoft suite that could be used to configure the PPM process in an integrated way to aid better decision making. But what is PPM? Well, Wikipedia gives a nice definition of PPM, and I've included it on the slide for reference, which will be sent out to everyone after the webinar today. But essentially, for me, PPM is simply about the image on the right of your screen. It's about capturing, selecting, and delivering projects. Sounds very easy, right? If that were true, I think all of us would most likely not be on the webinar today. So why should we even be talking about PPM in the first place? Apart from the fact that we're all PMs, of course, there has to be some business value in PPM, right? So let's take a look at what some of that value might be. PPM creates a structured pipeline process for managing organization project ideas, also known as demand management, as well as a centralized listing of all the project ideas. And this is key to providing a foundation for better visibility. PPM introduces a transparency for project prioritization decisions. It creates a strategic portfolio and selection process that aligns with organization strategy and functional roadmaps and is focused on value optimization, really ensuring that the organization is doing the right work. It enables standardization of portfolio management and project management processes, improving governance and oversight, ensuring the organization is doing the work in the right way. And with the right supporting technology, it provides visibility of resource demand and availability over a strategic planning horizon, identifying where there's resource issues earlier in the planning process so that appropriate action can be proposed. It also provides near real-time reporting capability with an integrated technology approach, and hopefully we'll be able to demonstrate that to you today. Of course, it also provides organizations with the capability to perform scenario planning and analysis, something that has become increasingly critical throughout 2020 as a result of COVID-19. So we know PPM has value, but why does my organization need it? There's nothing wrong in my organization, or is there? Could we be doing things better? There are some common indicators that we see, or common behaviors that exist in organizations where PPM might be required. And I am sure that many of you on the call today will have experienced some of these at some point in your career to date. So let's take a look and explore what some of those indicators are. First up, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Also known as the project in trouble gets the resources, even if it's not the best decision for the business. Better projects in the portfolio are often starved of resources and funding as a consequence. Too many projects, and all or many of them are classified as urgent. And that often results in none of the projects actually being executed with the correct level of urgency. Too many projects, all defined as urgent, results in resources being pulled in many directions, which often leads to people getting burned out, frustration, and potentially great people leaving the business, or even worse, developing health issues. Constantly changing priorities. Project A is our priority today. It's going to be something else tomorrow. Poor selection criteria results in projects being selected based on emotion and not on a structured approach. Another indicator is that there is no strategic criteria for project selection. The result here is that project teams have little or no idea that the impact their project has on the overall organization strategy. Lack of an overall process to decide on what is the true priority, in addition to other indicators mentioned above, results in the inability to effectively control change in the business. So let's assume that we all work in an organization that exhibits some of these indicators. How could we begin to fix these issues? Well, we could start by introducing PPM. We have already outlined that there's potential value in doing so. But where does an organization start with PPM? There are three considerations, key considerations. That is process, technology, and people. Now, we could drill into each of these in great detail, but today we would like to illustrate some of the tools that could be used to support or enable a PPM process. So we'll just mention these briefly. From a process perspective, the ideal process might be standardized and centralized at an enterprise level. Technology should be scalable and extensible to support business requirements now and into the future. People, well, let's just say they should be involved as early as possible in a PPM journey in order to drive process and technology adoption. And that is really critical. So today, we will briefly look at process and technology. So what does a PPM process look like? The PPM process consists of three key elements, and we mentioned these earlier in the webinar, namely capture, select, and deliver. So the process begins with the creation of an idea. The idea is collected into a centralized list. Standardized data points for each project are added to the centralized list in order to fully identify the project. Once all the data points are populated, the project can be prioritized relative to other projects in the list. In addition, each project can be authorized. In other words, the business case has satisfied any internal organizational hurdles to enable the project to proceed. Okay, so the project can now proceed, right? Not quite yet. The overall business funding to invest in the portfolio is going to be limited. The next step in the process should perform a cost analysis of the proposed portfolio of projects to determine which projects should be included in the portfolio. Okay, so we've done a cost constraint analysis to determine what projects can be included based on available funding. Can we now proceed with our projects? Not quite, we're nearly there. Now we must consider the available resources in the organization to deliver and execute the cost constraint portfolio. Some projects may need to be rescheduled or dropped or resources added in order to deliver the proposed portfolio. After this, we have reached the point where we have created a committed portfolio. We have identified the right work for the organization to focus on, but we are still only halfway there. We now need to manage the delivery of all of the projects in the committed portfolio, doing the right work, or doing the work right for the organization. Just a note, in relation to organizations that perform PPM at an enterprise level and do so in a mature way, the strategic plan is generally the starting point for informing and feeding the PPM process with the demand in terms of project ideas. Great. So we've reached the point where we have a process. What about technology? We could focus on a series of tools today. However, our intent was to demonstrate some capability of the Microsoft technology suite. So in today's demo, we will combine 3 cloud-based components of the Microsoft Power Platform: Power BI, which is a visualization and analytics tool; Power Apps, which is a low-code development platform; and Power Automate, which is a platform that enables process automation. Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate connect using data connectors to hundreds of business systems and databases, making it really easy to connect people with the existing processes and data that makes the business tick. And all the data that is captured in Power Apps can make its way right back to those very systems for further analysis in Power BI, creating a closed loop process for continuous improvement. Of course, the Power Platform has deep integration with other Microsoft products, such as Microsoft 365, for example, SharePoint Online, Teams, etc., and other standalone applications such as Project Online. Project Online is still Microsoft's flagship project or product for managing PPM process, with key capability in portfolio analysis and enterprise-level resource management that does not exist in some of Microsoft's more recent project tools, such as Project for the Web. The portfolio analysis capability is really a virtual sandbox for performing scenario modeling for your portfolio options and resource analysis. So today we will demonstrate the portfolio analysis capability in Project Online and also illustrate how the tools can be combined in teams to create an end-to-end PPM solution. So this is the bit that everyone's looking forward to. We finished with PowerPoint and now we can move to the demo. So in our demo, we'll start with the creation of the project idea. So I've just transferred across to Microsoft Teams, and you can see in the view of Microsoft Teams, I've created a Biz Apps demo material team, and in that team we have configured some channels that represent potentially organization roles around the PPM process. So a portfolio manager, a resource manager, a project manager, a team member, and potentially an executive stakeholder group. So within...
Sorry, Stephen, is it okay to interrupt briefly?
Yes, sure.
We have a technical problem with, at least with my chat. I was just on to Ian there, who's our colleague. So I'm not able to view the chat at the moment at all. There's a glitch, but Ian can view the chat. So if there's a chat going on and somebody doesn't feel their questions are being answered, my apologies, my issue. Ian is going to be able to address them. If there's PMI generic questions that can wait till the end, I can address those verbally at the end. I see that we've got Laura Roversi, who's got a question, I think, and her hand raised. So if it's okay, can we just take that one and then we'll get back to business?
Absolutely, yes, sure.
Okay, so apologies, everybody. Laura, do you have a question? You can unmute your...
Yeah. No, sorry, I think I pushed it by mistake, the raise hand button. Go ahead.
No problem.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sure.
So if anybody's got any questions, so Ian should be able to respond to those. He can see the chat. I just a glitch on my one that I somehow cannot see that. So apologies, and keep on going, Stephen. Thanks.
Sure. And if you have questions you're raising in the chat that we don't manage to get answered because of a technical issue, we will review the chat after the webinar has been completed and try and answer questions offline as well. Okay, so let's continue. So let me just bring you back to the PowerPoint for one moment, just to give you the context of where we're at. So we're at the point where we're managing the intake into our process. We're creating a project idea, and we're using the Microsoft Power Apps tool in order to do that. So let me just switch back across. We're in the Teams environment, in the channel related to the portfolio manager role. And within this channel, we've created a series of tabs on the channel that represent the flow of the PPM process. So we're going to create an idea, show you where the idea gets collected in a SharePoint Online list that resides on our project website. We're going to show you how the project looks, or the idea looks, in Power BI. We're going to trigger a flow based on approving the idea to populate the idea into the project lifecycle on Project Online. And then we're going to go in and show you the portfolio analysis capability and some of the reporting capability that's available out of the box. So what you can see on screen here is a tab that contains a Power App in order to create project ideas. So it's a very simple form. I can create an idea directly from here. So let's do that. So let's create a so I can create a title for my idea. I can select a business driver. I can put in a date. Sorry. I can assign a strategic objective. I'm just selecting at random here as I step through this. I can assign it to a location that is going to apply across the globe. I can put my name in as the requester, and that's pulling data directly from Active Directory. I can attach a business case with the idea at this point if it's ready, and I can assign it to a department. So let's save the idea and see what happens. Okay, so we should see it on the list. So we can see it's recorded it on the Power App. So let's go in and see if we can see this idea in the ideas list. So I've now moved from, if I go back to the PowerPoint, I've now moved the idea from a Power App into a SharePoint Online list. So if I just go back in, again, I have a tab in Teams that is linked to the SharePoint Online list. And if I go in and just maybe sort here, I should be able to see. So we can see that this idea has been created in the SharePoint Online list. Now, obviously, you can see the status of the idea is awaiting decision. So it's automatically created with that default status. But let's go in and change the status of the idea to approved. So let's assume that that idea is a good idea. We've reviewed it as part of our portfolio or our idea review process. So we can see now that it's been approved. We've made that decision from our business process perspective, and we want to see what happens as a result. So if I just go back to the PowerPoint for one moment, so we would probably use Power BI to review the list before approving the idea. I'll show you that in just a moment. But essentially at this point, once I've clicked approved on the idea on the SharePoint list, it will move it using Power Automate. It will move it and create a project in Project Online. So let's just go back and look at that. So if I go into look at the first of all the ideas in the Power BI report. So you can see if I click on approved, again, this is it should show the idea that we just created. I thought I seen it on the other view. Yes, so it is there. You can see it here. And you can see in this tab that we surfaced a Power BI report in Teams, and the Power BI report has all of the same features as using Power BI service directly in the web client. So you can go in and dynamically click on charts, which will apply dynamic filters to other elements of the dashboard that you're looking at. But this is a very simple view of a dashboard that could be used to review your project ideas as part of the intake process. And this can be configured based on the data that is available in the underlying list of ideas. So, we've already approved the idea in the list. Next, I'd like to show you Power Automate. Again, it's surfaced in Teams. And I want to show you that we have a flow here created, or a Power Automate flow that gets triggered. And you can see it successfully ran just now. And you can see when an item in the SharePoint list is modified, it actually creates a new project in Project Online. So very low code mechanism to trigger an event to happen based on something changing in the SharePoint list. So we should now go into Project Online, which again we've surfaced in Teams on a tab. And you can see this is the Project Center view in Project Online. And let's look and see down at the bottom here, you will see a new project record created for the idea that we approved. So if I go back to the flow again, we've now gone from creating the idea in a Power App. That's centralized the idea in a SharePoint Online list. We've reviewed it in Power BI, and we've approved the idea on the list, which has triggered a flow in Power Automate, and it's created a project in Project Online. So where do we go next? Okay, so next we're going to look at doing the portfolio analysis in Project Online. And specifically, we're going to look at the project prioritization, the cost constraint analysis, and the resource constraint analysis, which will lead you to getting to that committed portfolio. So let's switch back across to the Project Online view. And again, we've used the tab up here to show the portfolio analysis in Project Online. So this is a feature that we find isn't often used by organizations that have Project Online, but it's pretty useful, especially given the current climate with COVID-19 and the uncertainty for many businesses. So it helps create that alignment between the projects in your portfolio and your strategic drivers. So Within here, you can see there's an analysis that has been already created, and we'll go through that in just a moment. But to create that analysis or to prioritize the analysis, the projects within the analysis, sorry, we've used business drivers as the prioritization type. So you can load custom fields from other systems, business systems, as an input here to help with the prioritization of your projects. But in this particular instance, we're just demonstrating some of the internal capability in Project Online to allow you to do that. So if you imagine you have a series of strategic drivers that are important to your business, you can actually define them directly within Project Online. So my colleague Ian has defined, created some strategic drivers in this demo instance just to illustrate the capability. So you can create these and use them in the next stage of the process. So let's move on to the next stage, which would be prioritization of those drivers. Okay, so basically we've created a prioritization, including all of the drivers that we've just shown in the previous screen. So you can see here the list of drivers. So Ian has included 4 in the prioritization. And what has happened is each driver gets a score, a priority score, relative to all other drivers that are in the list. To do that, what happens is in Project Online, you can perform a type of pairwise analysis where you compare the importance, the relative importance of one driver versus every other driver in the list. And that then ends up allowing you to arrive at the prioritized scoring for each of the drivers. In addition, you will see down here that there's a consistency ratio, which means that when you're answering the questions in terms of the relative importance of each of the drivers, if there's any conflict in your answers, then this will move down into the red section, meaning that you probably have to go back and revisit some of your answers, because it means that there's some inconsistency there that would lead you to believe that, you know, the priority numbers that have been generated are not really something that could be used in the next stage. So what happens next? Next, then we move into portfolio analysis, where you're actually selecting a volume of projects to be included in a cost and a resource analysis. Let me just do a time check. Okay, 11:40. In this case, we've created a 2020 project forecast, and you can see we've done a cost and a resource analysis within that. Okay, so let's look at that particular analysis. So if I click here, it will allow the analysis to open. So before going and looking at this, there's a series of steps up here on the ribbon that you must step through in order to get to reviewing your analysis here. So you have to define the properties and the projects that you want to include in the portfolio analysis, as well as the cost field that you want to perform the constraint on. You also have to prioritize the projects that you're including in there. So basically what you're doing here is you are, for each project, you are assigning a rating of high, medium, low, strong, weak, etc. against each of the drivers that you identified in the previous stage, the driver prioritization. And the result is of doing this for each project allows you to identify a priority score for each of the projects, which takes into consideration the driver prioritization as well. So you end up with this prioritized list of projects, that you can then use in your cost analysis. So when you get to this point, the project online will automatically create a baseline scenario, which includes all of the projects that you listed in your portfolio analysis. And it will also tell you what the overall project cost will be for including all of those in your portfolio. But we don't have $466,000 to actually invest in our portfolio. So what we want to do is we want to constrain the portfolio based on the available funds that we have. So my colleague Ian has already created some different scenarios here. So he's assuming that we don't have 466K, we only have 400K. So let's look what happens when we apply that constraint. So we've set the project budget to 400K, and the result is that our election system project has been kicked out. So that brings the overall portfolio within our available budget and tries to deliver the most strategic value for that available budget as well. But from a business perspective, this might be a project that our business wants to do. So maybe we want to force that project in, and it's possible to do that as well within the tool. So you can manually override what the tool is proposing. And we've already captured that in a scenario here as well. So what we've done is this project, the online election system, was initially kicked out. And we forced it back in, as you can see here, into the portfolio. And the result is it's actually moved 2 other projects out as a result. So it shows you, it will attempt to obviously build a portfolio that is constrained based on the overall budget that you've defined. Ian then has created an additional scenario that might reflect maybe where we are today, in relation to COVID-19. So this might have been our projection or of our portfolio back at the start of the year. But given, we've just we're still in the middle of a pandemic, maybe the initial funding that we had identified is not really going to materialize, and instead of having 400K available to invest, we now only have 280K. So we can modify quickly our overall budget, and we can see what the impact is. So we can see we still force that project in because that's still important, but we've kicked 2 additional projects out of the portfolio because our funding to invest in our projects for the current year has been reduced. So this tool gives you a mechanism to quickly do that scenario analysis and to do a comparison of what the different scenarios look like together as well. So you can surface it on a screen here. You can look at each of the different scenarios that you've created, what strategic value that will deliver for you based on the drivers that you've created, and what the overall cost or constraint is that you've built into that portfolio. And down here, then you will see the detail, in terms of the priority of the project, and which for each of the scenarios, which projects have been selected, forced in, etc., in order to allow you to make decisions as to how to proceed with your portfolio. So some useful capability, which is out of the box within Project Online in the strategy section. And the good thing about this is it's pulling the available projects to include in your portfolio analysis are already included in your project center. So once you populate the project center from your intake process, you can include those projects directly in your portfolio analysis as well. And equally, in Project Center, in Project Online, you have the capability to create enterprise resource pools, which are all automatically included in this analysis as well. So any projects that you have in flight are considered as part of the analysis here. So let's say we've actually moved into the resource analysis. We can actually do that here directly. So maybe this was the baseline scenario. Everything is selected here at the moment, but it seems we have enough resources in the organization to actually proceed with all of the projects. What we would see here, if that was untrue, is, and I'm trying to see maybe if we have it in a different scenario. So let me go back to analyze cost. Yeah, so what you would see if you didn't have enough resources to meet the proposed portfolio and the timing of that proposed portfolio, you would see a number of projects that would have been kicked out, as you would see here, or not selected as part of the portfolio. So they were included as part of the cost analysis because we did have sufficient budget available to include them. But now we're saying, okay, we don't have the resources to facilitate delivery within our current enterprise resource pool. So there's a number of ways that you can modify that. You can modify the start date of the project. So we could try it here and recalculate. And you can see by changing the start date into the future, by pushing it out from February 2020 to May 2021, which may be a feasible option, it actually moved the project into the portfolio, saying that you have enough of the available resources required at that point in time to actually proceed with your project. In addition, you can also incrementally add resources here. Which might also allow you to pull in the additional project. It did in this particular instance. And you can see where those resources might have been added by using some of the out-of-the-box reports within the Project Online tool. So you can see here it was actually a development resource that was required, and the actual project that it was required on, and from June 2020 to January 2023. So there's a significant resource requirement there required. So, and you can estimate the costs if you have rates defined for your resources in your underlying Project Online instance as well. So it can be useful for that more strategic level planning. And again, in the resource section, you can also use the compare feature to look at the different resource analysis options that are available. Okay. So just to switch back to the PowerPoint for a moment. So we've gone through the project prioritization, we've gone through the cost constraint analysis in Project Online and the resource constraint analysis. And we've now reached the point where we've actually committed a portfolio. So once we've selected an option after performing resource constraint analysis, we can commit the portfolio. And in Project Online, that is simply going in and hitting the button here for one of the saved scenarios. And what that does is that populates 6 fields back into your Project Online instance that would suggest that the project start date has moved to a future date, and that would prompt the PM to go in and change those dates manually in your project center. So this is really a virtual sandbox to allow you to do modeling of your current portfolios without impacting any projects that are actually in flight within your project center, your execution module, let's say, in Project Online. Okay, so we've now got this committed portfolio. The next step is the management of that portfolio, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this today. I know we're probably running tight on time at the moment. So what I want to show you from this point on is some of the capability that can be presented in Teams around the reporting, in Power BI to support the execution and management of your project. So let me just switch back into Teams. And I'm going to move into a portfolio dashboard. So let's assume we're still working as a portfolio manager. What we're showing here is a dashboard, which is a content pack, a Power BI content pack created by Microsoft, which is directly linked to the OData feed in your underlying Project Online instance. So you can see, again, it's Power BI. You have the same capability to be able to, dynamically filter by clicking on the various chart elements. You can go in and have a portfolio level view of all of the projects, which one are green, amber, red, etc. from a cost, work, schedule perspective. You can do some analysis on costs, look at the key milestones for your portfolios, etc. Look at risks, issues, and this is out of the box. So this is an out of the box content pack that can be linked up to an underlying Project Online instance. So you can set Power BI to refresh. I think it's hourly, 8 times a day. So this is virtually real-time data updates. So if you can imagine, I wouldn't say happy memories of doing project reporting in previous roles in my career, but in that reporting process, often, project managers are having to, at the end of the month, capture data from various sources, be it Excel, PowerPoint, etc., consolidate them all together to create a 4-panel to present to the portfolio review board or project review board to show progress. And often that is there's a lag in the creation and the presentation of that data, and something could have changed significantly in between. So it's certainly not real time, and there's significant manual effort every month in order to create those reports. There would be some upfront effort required here to configure these types of reports and dashboards, but once that time has been invested, I think the ongoing sustaining requirement is much less, and much less of a burden on members of the overall team. But again, you can create reports based on various roles in the organization. So I've moved into a channel here that might represent a resource manager who is looking at the resources in the organization, is looking at a heat map showing the availability of those resources and trying to resolve those issues on a continuous basis, so that it doesn't impact projects on the ground and project delivery. So again, presenting tools and reports in virtual real time that really help resource managers, project managers, portfolio managers make the right decisions at the right points using the right data. So all of the decisions are driven by the right data, to help with project delivery. And again, you can step in, you can create views here for project managers, again for team members, etc., and make it very specific or customized to your business. So you could see here, for a given project, what the status is, the work remaining, etc., what the risks and issues might be, and you can filter on those as by owner or by risk level in order to discuss in any of the project review meetings. You could also have maybe an executive level dashboard for maybe your portfolio review board type meetings or executive stakeholders, which might be at a much more higher level view of how things are progressing in the overall portfolio. So just switch away again. So all of what I've shown you on the slide today was all housed within Teams. So 6 different applications in total. So just to summarize, we used Power Apps to collect ideas, and those ideas could be submitted via a mobile or a tablet or a PC. We collected those or centralized that list of ideas on SharePoint Online. We used Power BI to create a simple dashboard to report on that ideas list to aid decision support. We used Power Automate to automatically create a project in Project Online once the underlying idea had been approved on the SharePoint list. In Project Online, then I showed you some capability to look at the strategic level portfolio analysis. It can also be used to manage projects and manage resources. We didn't go into that in too much detail today, but there is significant capability to enable that as well. And then we looked at Power BI just to demonstrate some of the reporting capability that's available out of the box and is easily configurable to meet unique business requirements and needs of your process. And then we just, everything that we've seen in terms of the demo today was housed in Teams. So Teams, really enables you to create a hub with channels and tabs for better team collaboration. You can use the chat and the post feature to get conversations going within the team, and also for document storage and management.